I have a treat for you today. It's an interview with someone I've admired for a very long time, Abigail Marie, the chef with IBD. Abigail's a professional chef who's turned her struggle with inflammatory bowel disease, also known as IBD, into an adventure. It's filled with outstanding recipes and advocacy for the grain-free community. What happened was, after a serious diagnosis of IBD, and we'll talk about that in the interview, it disrupted her career, and she shifted her focus toward creating a supportive community and educating others about managing IBD through diet and lifestyle changes. She has over 200, and that number is growing all the time, over 200 recipes. Most or all of them are grain-free, gluten-free, and also fine for those who are following the specific carbohydrate diet. She has over 100 blog posts on IBD research and chronic illness topics, and a ton of followers on Instagram. She has a great monthly newsletter, and she's also written 3 ebooks that we will talk to her about. That's quite an accomplishment. So let's turn to Abigail to learn more. Hi, Abigail, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
We're going to have a lot of fun today. Lots of questions for you. I mean, how lucky is everyone to hear not only someone who cares about eating grain-free and gluten-free, but also someone who's a chef who knows how to really make these recipes pop. You know, have you ever had a fantasy about there being one of those travel shows or cooking shows, but just for grain-free and gluten-free? Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so you need to be the star of that show. I'm just saying.
Oh, well, thank you. I would love to.
You have a really good presence. So, share a little bit about your journey into the culinary world. What inspired you to become a chef?
Yeah, so from a really early age, I loved being in the kitchen, cooking. I have this really fond memory of when I was about 3 years old over at my aunt's house, and she was like, we're going to make chocolate chip cookies. And so I'm picturing you get the dough in the little tube and you just cut it up. And she was like, no, we're going to make it from scratch. And so we just took all these ingredients and made chocolate chip cookies. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, taking all these things and making them into something else. And so, yeah, that's kind of one of my first food memories. And kind of from there, I got into cookbooks and watching Food Network. And, my friends are going home to watch cartoons and I'm going home to watch cooking shows. And so it kind of grew from there. And eventually, when I got older, decided I wanted to go to culinary school. And yeah.
Now, at the time you went to culinary school, had you been diagnosed with irritable bowel disease, also known as IBD?
No, I had not yet. My diagnosis actually didn't come until I was 21, and I had actually just finished my associates in culinary arts and was going on to get my bachelor's in food service management. And in 2014, I was on my way to work. I was working in a restaurant, working the line as a saute cook, and yeah, I was just driving to work. It was a beautiful day, and I got hit head on by a tow truck going like 60 and a 45 with an expired license and no tag. And it threw my car like off the road. And when the paramedics got there, they, opened the door and everything. And I'm like, my side really hurts. Like, my side hurts. They're like, okay, let's get you to the hospital. We'll assess there. Maybe it could have something to do with your spleen. Like, it might have exploded on impact. Like, let's just get you there and we'll see what's going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So we go to the emergency room. My spleen is fine. I ended up spraining my ankle, and I found out a week later I had fractured part of my hand. Um, and they were like, you're okay, go home, get some rest. Here's a bunch of ibuprofen for you, and you're gonna be fine. And so I go home, like, everything's fine. About 2 weeks later, I have that same pain kind of in my side. And then I notice that there's blood in my stool. And I'm thinking something from the accident. I have internal bleeding, like I'm not sure what's going on. So I made an appointment with my primary care physician, and they were like, let's get you to a GI. Like, you should go see a specialist. And so I made the GI appointment, went in, they were like, well, we definitely need to see what's going on. So let's schedule you for a colonoscopy. So we did the colonoscopy. When I woke up, they told me, hey, good news is we figured out what is wrong. It's moderate to severe left-sided ulcerative colitis. So that was kind of my diagnosis journey. Thankfully, I was able to be diagnosed rather quickly. This all kind of happened in 2 or 3 weeks. But yeah, I had never heard of IBD or ulcerative colitis. I didn't really understand that it was chronic and lifelong and not curable. It was kind of just here's some medication which can help you, and it was mesalamine in the pill form. And she was like, take that. We'll start here, and you can just continue to live your life, and just make sure you take your medicine. And so I was like, okay, well, like that sounds pretty easy, manageable. Like I can do that. And so that's what I did. And I had no idea about how food could influence. I even asked, gastrointestinal. I'm thinking maybe there are certain things I should avoid. Like my aunt has diverticulitis, so she has to be careful with nuts and seeds and things like that. And she was like, well, it really doesn't matter at all. Like it doesn't, what you eat is not going to influence it. She's like, when you're flaring though, maybe just do low fiber. And that was all of the advice. And, I'm 21. I'm like, okay, she's the specialist, she's the doctor. Like, that's great. Let's just do, what she's saying. And so, like, I did that. And yeah, it was a big disconnect.
Yeah, and so sadly, that's a common story. Either people are not being diagnosed, or when they are diagnosed, they're just, here's a pill, have a good
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
It's not quite that easy. It's not quite that
No.
easy. And so
Um,
many of us have found that by changing the way we eat, we really can get some serious improvement in day-to-day life and how we feel. Just to be clear, the
yeah.
accident had nothing to do with causing the colitis or the IBD, correct?
So they speculated that the like stress of the incident had brought it out earlier, like it could have appeared later in my 30s. So it kind of was like the catalyst, but not the cause. Like it was going to happen at some point.
That's a good point. Stress does contribute a lot to IBD, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, which took me a while to understand and learn, but
But you learned, and now
I
you're
did.
here. So has living with, well, obviously living with IBD influenced your approach to cooking and your culinary style. But tell me about that defining moment when you learned that you really wanted to get out there and help other people.
Yeah, so I kind of just continued on, living my life, eating whatever, for several years until about 2019. And I would have like a couple flares every year. They would give me the prednisone, like the flare would go away. Like I would just be sick for a month or so.
I'm going to
And,
interrupt you for just a second.
yeah,
Explain to people for you, because everyone's different, for you, what is a flare? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
yeah. So, extreme abdominal pain. For me, I'm in the bathroom 30 plus times a day when I'm flaring, and most of the time it's like just straight blood from the ulcers, and definitely very painful, hard to sleep, hard to eat. It's difficult to go anywhere because you don't know when you're going to need the restroom. So definitely very kind of debilitating and isolating when I'm in a flare. But yeah, that's a flare.
I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that can relate. So thank you for sharing
Yes.
that. Okay,
No,
so
of course.
back to how you decided that you really wanted to bring grain and gluten-free to the world.
Yeah, so in 2019, I kept having a couple flares every year, and I'm thinking, well, maybe, I'm just going to be sick a few times a year, and that's just how it's going to be. And then I started kind of looking to diet. I was like, well, I know she said there isn't anything I can do, but let me do some research. Let me kind of see what's out there. And so after doing some research, I found that dairy and gluten are considered to be inflammatory. And I'm like, well, I'm obviously struggling with inflammation with the IBD. So why don't I take those things out? And so I started with gluten-free and dairy-free. And I noticed that it did help, but not quite as much as I was hoping that it would. And so my parents had actually found the Plant Paradox book by Stephen Gundry. And they were like, well, hey, there's people in this book that are saying this diet helped their ulcerative colitis. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a try. And so I did that. And it was a little bit more of an improvement from just the gluten and dairy free. And then my husband's aunt, who's a nurse, had heard about the specific carbohydrate diet. And she was like, it's this book, you can order it on Amazon. She's like, I don't know if it would be helpful for you, but it's an option, maybe you could look into it. And I was like, okay. And so I ordered the book and read it. And I was like, this makes so much sense. I was like, okay, let's do this. It's specifically for IBD. And it ended up helping me tremendously with quality of life and symptoms, and kind of in addition to medication. And I've gone through several different medications now as well. But kind of the combination has been really kind of life changing for me in a positive way.
That's great. That's wonderful. What is it? And a lot of us know the answer to this already, but what is it about the specific carbohydrate diet that makes it unique? And why, when people that have, my gosh, it covers a lot of stuff: Crohn's, colitis,
It does,
diverticulitis,
yeah.
autism. Now
Autism,
there's a
yeah.
chapter on autism because they're finding that really helps with that. Um, why, in your mind, is it better than some of the other diet protocols out there? And let me just say for everyone, again, everybody is different.
Yeah,
So
everybody's different.
what's best for Abigail is not necessarily best for everyone else, but it's kind of interesting to hear your perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely not a one size fits all, which took me a while to learn as well. But yeah, so SCD focuses on removing multi-chain carbohydrates. So it really gets down to like the molecular level of food and how it's being digested and processed. So by removing the multi-chain carbohydrates, which include grains, gluten, um, like dairy, soy, things like that, refined sugar. By getting rid of those things, it allows the gut the opportunity to kind of repair the barriers and heal, and not be weighed down by trying to process these difficult to process foods. And so to me, that kind of just made a lot of sense, like looking at it on how it's broken down on its very basic level. And so that's kind of what makes it a little bit different from others. Like the Stephen Gundry book, it was kind of more avoiding lectins. And that's kind of like a whole other area. um, but yeah, so SCD is multi-chain carbohydrates. And that includes a lot of things like you wouldn't think of, like maple syrup, and some other things
SCD?
like that.
SCD does not include maple syrup, but I think it's the one that does.
I think
It'll
maybe in
it'll
the
come to me.
later
But
stages
honey,
of the AIP, I think
okay,
you can
there it
do
is. Yeah, yeah.
syrup.
Now, do you
Yeah.
still follow SED completely, or have you healed to the point to where you're able to have a little bit of grain once in a while?
Yeah, so it's been a little over 4 years now that I have done strictly SCD. And now that I'm doing well with my medication and with the SCD and have been in remission from my last colonoscopy, they were able to see. I am going to start doing modified SCD. So that includes things like chocolate and sweet potato, and some other things like that. So I've started with chocolate and that has gone well. And so next I'm doing sweet potato. So I am kind of slowly incorporating, but everything on my website right now is all grain-free, strictly SCD.
Excellent. So let's talk about, and I'm going to circle this I have
Sure.
my trusty cheat sheet right here. I'm going to circle this because I want to get back to your advocacy and those things. But I just really want to talk about food for a while
Sure.
because it's such a thrill, and yet it can be so frustrating trying to
Yeah.
find something that really fits the bill that's going to satisfy you and yet
Yeah.
is good for you to eat and good for I've been doing this quite a bit, and I just did an episode on the importance of, if you're really craving something, just figure out what it is and find something that you can make that falls within a diet protocol that will not make you sick.
Yes,
And your
absolutely. And
website is like perfect for that.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I'm all about, really. When I first started SCD, I tried some of the recipes in the back of the book, and I was kind of like, I don't know, these are a little bit lackluster, coming from working in a restaurant, like having all these other things. And I was like, well, why don't I try and do something here? Like I have a culinary background. I can kind of maybe rework some of these recipes, add in some more flavor, use some different techniques. And so that's what I did. I kind of just started doing the STD recipes for me so that I could have more variety and other things that I wanted. And then it kind of occurred to me, maybe other people would like to see this too. And so I started my blog, Abigail Marie, the chef with IBD, in 2020 when we were all home in the lockdowns and COVID. um, and yeah, kind of just grew and blossomed from there.
What's some of your favorite recipes on your website? And is there one in particular that really stands out?
I really love dessert. So I have a lot of dessert recipes. Um, the blondie recipe that I have on there is new and it's like it's so good. It
I,
is
I
the
just saw that
exact
today. I
texture.
just saw that today. I
Yeah,
have it already on my list to try.
nice. Yeah, I really do like that. It's like the flavor profile, the texture, it really is like a brownie, just minus the chocolate.
What
So
are
I
you
really like
using? Are you
that.
using white chocolate or are you?
No, actually it's just like almond flour and almond butter. And it's just really smooth and like when it bakes, it's just I don't know how to describe it. Like yeah, I'm not really sure how to describe
Let's
that
just say
texture.
like heaven.
Yes, that works. But yeah, I love that. And then I also have a cashew coffee ice cream recipe that's dairy free. And it really tastes like coffee ice cream, which is my favorite.
Do you use an ice cream maker for that?
Nope, I use a blender. Yeah, you don't even need an ice cream maker. You just make up the mixture and put it in like little ice cube trays, and then you freeze it, and then put all the little cubes in a blender and blend for like 5 to 8 minutes. It seems like a long time, but it is really good and nice and smooth, and it gives you that really, really good texture and flavor.
Is that what, do you have a signature dish?
Gosh, not really. I kind of just draw inspiration to make my recipes from if there's something that I'm wanting or like the season and what's in season. So yeah, I guess not really.
The more you go along with all of this, the easier it becomes to do food hacks that really can satisfy a craving.
Yeah.
Have you ever have you ever noticed that there's kind of stages that people go through when they're learning to eat grain-free and gluten-free or learning to follow the specific carbohydrate diet? Did you go through because I know I did. Did you go through this stinks
Yes,
to
definitely.
and then all of a sudden the things that you didn't things start to taste better?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the intro diet is definitely hard. Like the intro for SCD, it's very, very limited and full disclosure, I did not follow it as long as you're supposed to. um, but yeah, it was just, that was kind of like the, oh, this kind of sucks part for me. But then, once you kind of get past that and, you're starting to feel better and you can add in other things and eventually you can get to like almond flour and things like that and really start making food that is super delicious and like things that you're used to. Um, so yeah, I think the very beginning was definitely difficult for me, but after that, I think it got a lot better.
With baking in particular, there are some gluten-free recipes, and your site contains a number of them where it's better than if it was made with flour.
Oh, well, thank you.
It just,
I mean,
there's
yeah.
something about almond flour coke. They're so rich.
Hmm.
There's just a flavor like, wow, this is
Yeah,
better
it
than anything.
definitely it adds, yeah, and that like kind of nuttiness that it brings and it's like not as fine as regular flour, so it lends itself well to baking coconut and almond flour.
All right now, and hopefully in the future, all of the recipes on your site are for free, correct?
Yes, yep, they are all free. Yeah, just a free resource. I've got my story on there. I did used to do like Warrior Wednesdays, so I have a lot of other people's stories with IBD on there, and then also just some blog posts like about things in the pipeline, like new medications and new things that they're always finding, uh, which I think is helpful.
Yeah, it's really cool, everyone. If you go to her website, you will see right at the top of her website, it's not all about her. You can tell the minute you get there that this is a person who truly cares about it being all about the other person. When you get there, there's these three boxes at the top. Am I
Yep,
describing it
yeah,
right? That have what's in the news.
yeah, yep,
And I try to keep up with all of that stuff, and sometimes I do, but I will get to your website and there'll be something there like, I didn't know that. Let me go check that out. So definitely everyone, make sure you go to the website, make sure you look. And if you're on her landing page, as you scroll down, she always has her most recent recipes featured
yeah,
on
yep,
that front page, but she has hundreds more recipes. So you have to make sure
yes.
you hit that button to take you to, and I'll link to all of it below to take you
Yeah.
through the
Yeah,
recipes.
I've got over 200 SCD recipes on there now, and yeah, if you go on the website, it's got like the menu bar at the top, and you can just click recipes, and they are all there.
They're all there. Links to your ebooks are there also. Oh,
Yeah,
tell us the titles of the ebooks you've written and a little bit about them.
yeah. So I have three ebooks. One is about how to kind of approach maybe unsupportive people and unsupportive family. If they're not really being helpful with you trying to do SCD. Oh, I don't know what happened.
That's okay. We'll get you back. There
There it
she
is.
is.
Um,
We didn't know you had an invisibility cloak.
yeah, I didn't either.
You are amazing.
Um, so yeah, that one's kind of like how to address them and just kind of make sure you're doing what's best for you because ultimately that is what is going to be important and what is going to affect your health. The other one is like traveling and SCD kind of checklist, like some helpful things to remember to take with you. Like helpful tips for if you're flying versus if you're driving, and like things you can bring with you through TSA. So yeah, kind of traveling packing list. And then the last one is for eating out. So if you're on SCD and you go to eat out, it's definitely difficult, right? And you're trying to tell the waiter or waitress like all these things that you're trying to avoid and trying to make sure that what is brought back to you is actually safe. And so, working in the culinary industry, I noticed a lot of times people that have like complex allergies or just a lot of allergies would make a business card, right? And just give that to the waitress or waiter, and then they can give that to the kitchen. So then the kitchen knows exactly what you can have and what you can't. And so I kind of just applied that process to SCD. So I made these cards. They're definitely bigger than a business card, but you can print them out and you could laminate them or whatever that you want. And then you can just give that to, the kitchen and then you can have food out. And it's a much easier process than trying to explain everything. It takes 2 seconds. You can just be like, hey, this is my card. These are my dietary restrictions. And then, yeah, so it kind of streamlines that process and makes it a lot easier.
You find that it works better for you to always talk to a manager or a chef if you're uncertain with a restaurant, or with that card, does it kind of eliminate that and you just need to talk to the wait staff and it takes care of everything?
So I guess it kind of depends on like where you're at. But a lot of times I do just give it to the waitress or waiter and they take it to the kitchen. And if they have a question, sometimes the manager will come over to clarify something. Um, but yeah, it's a lot easier instead of having to like flag down the manager and then him coming over and going back to the kitchen and then coming back to you. So yeah, it's kind of just to make that process easier and to be able to focus on being with your friends, being with your family, you know, whoever you're with, and taking that stress kind of off your plate.
I don't have this on my cheat sheet, but with everything you've said, it made me think of it. A lot of us are making all of our meals from scratch. And for a
Yes.
lot of us, that's usually 2 to 3 meals a day.
Yes, it can
And
be
for a
time
lot of us, we
consuming.
all wish we owned 2 or 3 dishwashers.
Yes.
So are how looking at your recipes, how many of them can you create ahead and freeze
Yeah,
easily?
so I actually do that a lot with a lot of baked goods and a lot of like lunch dinner recipes. So like my lemon chicken piccata freezes really well. My turkey meatloaf with ketchup freezes really well. The chicken pot pie I have, like I freeze all those things all the time. My orange chicken um, freezes well, and yeah, I mean it's a lot. And like all my muffins, I'll tend to like make 1 or 2 batches of muffins and then freeze so I can pull them out when it's super easy on the go. So yeah, kind of if you have the time to make something, make a double batch and freeze it. You know, that is definitely very helpful. Um, for I mean, everybody's busy, right? And just for busy days where you need something for lunch or dinner, you can just pull it out of the freezer, thaw it in the microwave, and you're done.
A lot of us also miss crunch.
Yeah.
Any favorite of yours that deliver crunch?
So I have a grain-free granola recipe, and it actually tastes like granola that you buy at the store. It's really good. So definitely that for crunch. I love that granola.
What are you using in it?
So it's different nuts. So like almonds, pecans, walnuts. You can really do any combination that you want. It also has cashew in it. Um, but yeah, like you can do any combo of nuts. And then it also has like coconut, like unsweetened coconut flakes and no sugar added raisins that you add in at the end and all the baking spices.
Yum. I haven't tried that one. I
Yeah, it's
I just
good.
throw a bunch of nuts and fruits and stuff in a bowl and just put walnut milk on top, but I really
I mean,
need
well, yeah, that works too.
I need to just go there and try that recipe because I really enjoy that flavor, and that
Me
crunch is
too.
important. But bread,
Yes,
what do you
bread.
what do you have for us with bread on
So,
the website?
yeah, so I have a banana bread recipe that is really good. For just like regular bread, I actually don't have a recipe of my own, but I use Danielle Walker's blender cashew bread. And I really like the flavor and the texture of that. And that is like a really old recipe of hers. So it's on her old website, not her new one. But yeah, that's what I do normally for bread. And then I have like a ton of muffin recipes and like cupcakes and other things like that too.
Crackers too. Don't you have a cracker recipe?
Yeah, yeah, I
Is
do.
it
And
it's almond crackers, isn't it?
yeah, it's almond flour. It's a
Yeah,
thyme almond crackers, yeah. And like I bring those to events and stuff, and people don't even know they're grain free. Like everybody loves my crackers. I make
they're
them all the
really
time.
good. I have tried them and they are
Oh, thank
outstanding.
you.
And also, I will sometimes freeze them and eat them frozen. They're
Yeah,
still
yeah,
very,
those
very
freeze well
edible
too.
frozen,
Yes.
but there's a greater crunch.
Yeah, it is crunchier.
Yeah, so try that one, guys, and try freezing it
Yes.
because it's so satisfying, so satisfying. There might be some people watching this that would love to be a chef themselves. They may
Yeah.
also have a lot of dietary restrictions. Do you have any advice um, for aspiring chefs that have IBD or similar issues?
Yeah, I mean, make it work for you, honestly. Like take your time and keep like a food diary or whatever works for you, so you can kind of see how your body reacts to certain foods. And then, it'll take some time, but over time you'll figure it out. And then, once you become familiar with replacing your flour with almond flour and you get comfortable doing those, you will be comfortable enough to make your own substitutions, and create your own recipes. And as far as like working in the restaurant industry, like if it's something you can't taste, have your chef taste it, have a sous chef taste it. Also, like you will be able to smell eventually, like after practice, like you can smell it and be like, okay, I think it needs more salt. I think it needs more sweet.
Do you
You
mean to tell
can,
me you can tell if something needs more salt by smelling it?
yeah, I mean, you can smell it, like you can smell the acidity, like, oh, is there too much acidity? Maybe I should add some sweetness. So, yeah, like using your other senses.
I need to start smelling things more often. I can tell by smelling sometimes if it needs a little, like cinnamon, that's a perfect one. You can usually tell if
Yeah.
it's a little more. But salt? That's like a superpower, Abigail.
Is it? I mean, you can smell the sweet, the savory, you know.
I'm going to have to experiment with that, but
Yeah,
that's
please
really good
do.
advice. That's really good advice. Can you share any upcoming projects that you have in the works that we all need to watch for?
So actually in June, there is this magazine, free magazine called Stoma Tips, and it's for people that have had surgery to have their colon removed and everything. And I feature a recipe in their magazine.
Give me the name of the magazine again.
Yeah, it's Stoma Tips. And it's
Spell
actually,
it for me.
yeah, Stoma and then tips, Tips.
I'll make sure I link to that. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry to
and
interrupt you. Go
no,
ahead.
of course. It's a UK based magazine, but you can like enter your information and they can send it to you. Um, and I believe they also have like an online version that you could look at too. And they're having a learning day in June, and they've asked me to speak at the event. Obviously I'm in America, so I'm gonna do a pre-recorded like video and then a live Q&A session. So yeah, if you're able to join in on that, or I'm sure they'll have like a link afterwards that you could view. So yeah, excited about that.
Uh, can you send me whatever information you have on that as
Yeah,
well so I can link to it for
yeah,
people? What is the date
absolutely.
again?
It's June, I think it's June 5th.
Which will be here much sooner than
Before
it
you know
is.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, you said it. You said it. Um, how has your recipe experience and your relationship with food evolved since your diagnosis? And what are some future plans for what you're going to do to help people with what they eat every day?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when I was first diagnosed, I wasn't really even thinking about food or how that could impact me or help or hurt me. And it's definitely been a journey, but, just being able to listen to your body and understand what it's telling you, like, you're kind of coming from a place, or I was anyway, of like my body's working against me, like I'm sick, like it's attacking, I'm attacking myself, and kind of taking that and turning that perspective into, but like, why is my body reacting this way? Like we're on the same team, you know, um, and kind of, yeah, just changing your perspective, and understanding my body's not just doing this out of nowhere. Like this is the process that it's going through, and just being able to support it in the best way that you can, with food and, like managing stress and gentle movement, and like you just have to do all the things that you can. And yeah, just kind of viewing it through that lens instead of it's working against me. You're really on the same team.
Instead of pushing it away, kind of
Yeah.
bringing it in and saying, okay, I love you, body. I'm here to support you and help you.
Yeah, what can
Tell
I
me
do?
what to do.
Yes.
But you're right. I mean, and I've written about this. That which you resist persists.
Definitely.
So if you just kind of embrace, I really am getting tired of the word embrace.
No, but yes,
But if you
that's
just
what it
embrace
is.
it and you go with it, it can make a huge difference. It's a really good tip.
Yeah.
What else should I have asked you? What did I forget to ask you? Any idea?
Um, I mean, I feel like the only thing I didn't really get to talk about was more like medication transition, like
Let's do
hospital
that. Let's
stays.
do
Yeah.
that. Go for it.
Because I mean, I definitely like, I don't want everybody to think that IBD is easy all the time. Like, it's not. And you definitely, you'll have flares, you'll have bad days, but just knowing that you can get through it and you have people to support you. And like another reason that I wanted to kind of share my story and start my website is just to let other people know, like, you're not alone. Like, if you are going through it, somebody else is going through it. And I mean, that's a guarantee. So kind of just letting people know, hey, it's okay. It's okay to talk about these things. It's okay to find a new, your new normal, your new life with chronic illness. Um, and yeah, I kind of, from 2014 to 2018, 19, I took the mesalamine, which is a ASA5 medication, and I took it first in pill form, then in pill and enema form, then pill and suppository form, and eventually I was having too many flares, like it was not working well. And at this point, I also had not really addressed diet at all. Um, and so then 2019 rolls around, and I had to actually end up going to the hospital for my first hospital stay because of ulcerative colitis flare. And I was there for a week, and
Wow.
we switched from the mesalamine to a biologic. So we started Remicade. We did the initial dose there in the hospital, and then I was able to get the 3 loading doses and then go to like a outpatient clinic to get my infusions. And then I was on Remicade from 2019 to 2022. And then in 2022, we had like a major family crisis. And it was just like an extremely stressful time. And I had the worst flare I've ever had. The event had happened in May of 2022, and I always get my dates wrong. It was such a blur. I think it was by the end of June, maybe beginning of July or so. I went to the emergency room and waited for like 12 hours, and they were like, sorry, it was so packed. And so I went home, and then we went back the next day. I ended up being in the hospital for 37 days. Um, it was 3 separate stays, but between the first and second was about 24 hours. Between the second and third was about 12 hours. 2 ambulance rides, 7 blood transfusions. And yeah, it was a lot. It was really scary. Definitely the worst flare I've had. And basically, they told me that the steroids were failing. So I was facing steroid failure, and there were not a lot of other options. Um, and sorry.
I'll join you.
And so basically, they told me, hey, you are having a really, really bad flare. You have lost a lot of blood. You're very weak. You've lost a lot of weight. Steroids are not working. So your options are if we can get your insurance to approve Rinvoq, you can try it for a week. If there's no improvement or if they don't approve it, we're going to do a complete colectomy. Um, and so those are your options.
And that would
Um,
mean losing your intestine and having a bag
yes,
attached that you.
permanent ileostomy, yes.
Mhm.
And ironically, my best friend has a permanent ileostomy. We both have ulcerative colitis. And so, like I kind of at least would know what to expect with that. We got the insurance to approve the Rinvoq, however, and I was able to take it and it helped. And eventually they released me from the hospital. And I did a double loading dose of the Rinvoq. So I did 45 for 18 weeks, 16 or 18 weeks. And then we switched to 30, and Rinvoq has been amazing for me. So very thankful that I was able to have that option. It definitely was a very difficult time to go through. I also ended up getting COVID while I was in there. So I was like in complete isolation. My husband ended up getting COVID. It was a rough stay for sure. But thankful to be on the other side of it, and doing well with the SCD and the Rinvoq, and now being able to start doing the modified SCD. So yeah, that, IBD is not always easy, but you can get through it, and you're not alone, and you have other people that understand.
That's quite the story. That was a lot of hospital time, a
It was a lot.
lot.
It
And then
was
to
a
have
lot.
COVID on top of it?
Yeah. And the second time they took me by ambulance, like I had passed out. And so the ambulance came, and then I had kind of come to, and they were trying to take my blood pressure, and they were like, it's not working. So I'm thinking, oh, like their blood pressure machine is broken. Later, I found out that my blood pressure was so low they couldn't get a reading.
Wow.
So it was it was definitely touch and go in those couple hours, like getting me to the hospital, immediately starting the blood transfusions. Um, like it was kind of a blur, but I was pretty close to the brink of death. So,
Wow.
IBD is definitely, something to take seriously, and can be scary. But yeah, thankfully I had my husband and my dad and good people taking care of me and watching out for me. So
And at that point, were you or were you not following the specific carbohydrate diet?
I was. Yeah, I had, over 4 years I had been doing it. I took like one sip of Gatorade in the hospital, and that was.
Someone was detected at your front door.
Sorry, that's my
Oh no,
alert.
it's okay.
Someone is at the front door.
Say
That's
hello to
cool. It does
everyone.
that.
I'm going to unplug it.
That's cool. It does that though.
There's always
Um,
something that happens during these, such an amateur me.
oh no, no, it's fine.
So you were
Yeah,
you were on SCD.
yeah, I was. But like stress definitely is a huge factor, and there
Yeah,
was so much going on, and it was hard to process, and like a difficult thing to go through, and sometimes that overshadows um, you know, the other things that you're trying to do to
right,
help.
right. And if
Um,
you hadn't been on it,
yeah, it could have
gosh
been worse.
forbid, it could have even been maybe worse, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, so glad to be on the other side of it for sure.
And you've come through it beautifully in the way that you've treated it positively with the recipes that you've come up with and everything you're doing for the community, which we deeply appreciate. Thank you so
Oh, well,
much.
thank you. I guess the only other thing that I would like to touch on that happened after that, some people don't realize that IBD can cause hair loss. And so actually all my hair fell out, and I had to shave my head, and it was February 1st of 2023. But it's coming back now.
Looks great.
But yeah, like, so just to let people know, hey, that can be a thing with either from medication, malnutrition, or just having a really massive flare. And it probably was a combination of those things for me. Just because I was so sick and losing so much weight, I really was not getting good nutrition during that time. And then also just the stress of everything and the flare and the new medication. But yeah, just know if that is going on for you, you are not alone with that either.
Part of you broke up for a minute, which isn't a problem, but just to make sure,
Yeah.
it wasn't the medication that was causing the hair loss. It was the lack of nutrition and
And
the
the flare
stress.
itself.
And
But
okay,
for some people, there are certain IBD medications that can cause hair loss. So that's always something you can speak to your GI or your specialist about.
okay, very good. Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I mean, gosh, I think we've covered a lot.
This, I can't even believe the time has flown so quickly.
I know. Oh gosh, yeah, it has.
I certainly have questions for Abigail. Post them below, and I will let her know if you have a question. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer
Yeah,
them.
absolutely.
Not to
I'd be
put you
happy
on the
to.
spot, but I'm
No,
sure you'd be
no, I'm
happy to
happy to.
answer them.
I also have like a contact me page on my website, so you can go there and send me an email with any questions. You could also message me on Facebook or Instagram. My Instagram is hashtag chef with IBD instead of the whole thing. It's a little shorter. But yeah, always happy to answer questions. SCD, IBD, life, whatever.
E-I-E-I-O. Thank you, Abigail, and thank you for helping me in my life so much.
Oh, yeah,
You
of
know, it
course. I mean,
really, it's a great place to go. I mean, I try to remind myself to go there regularly just to see what type of news is out there for people, what improvements are being made.
yeah.
But boy, if you just don't know what to have for dinner, that
Yep,
is
I'm here for that too.
that is the place to go. And the beauty of it is she's lived it. She understands it. She really understands what all of us are going through. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
We might
Um,
even want to think about maybe in the future having you back and doing it live and having people ask
yeah, ask
questions.
questions. I would love to.
I've never administrated one of those, so I don't know
Me
how well I
neither,
would do.
but
Maybe we need to find a third person to push the buttons for us, but that would be fun. Let's think about that.
yeah. Yeah, no, I would love to.
All right, you take care, and I
Awesome.
hope
Well,
to
thank
talk
you
to you
so
again
much for
soon.
having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I just feel so honored to have had the opportunity to talk
Oh,
to you
well, thank
today.
you.
Take care.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.